The May 3rd accident was never supposed to happen. That was not the first time a wide-body aircraft had landed on that runway.
The FAA certified this approach. Commercial aircraft use it regularly.
If that had been the operating system for decades, then what exactly went wrong? On Sunday, May 3rd, 2026, United Flight 169 departed Venice Marco Polo Airport for Newark Liberty International Airport. On board was 221 passengers and 10 crew members. After roughly 8 hours crossing the Atlantic Ocean, the aircraft began descending towards Newark area at the early afternoon. Now, up to then, there was nothing seemingly out of the ordinary, and the aircraft was cleared for runway 29.
United 169 Heavy Newark Tower, hello, wind 30015, gust 31, runway 29, clear to land.
Clear to land, 29, United 169.
Runway 29, which, unlike some major runway at some busy international airports, does not offer the pilots full instrument landing system. That's the ILS. So, to really understand what we're talking about here, let's briefly talk about the ILS. The instrument landing system is a precision system meant to guide the pilot in a 3D space, real time, so they know precisely where they are and how far apart from Earth's surface they are. So they kind of glide through an invisible tunnel while landing. While the non-precision approach gives only the left and right lateral guidance, leaving the pilot to rely heavily on sight. But runway 29, where flight 169 was cleared for landing, does not offer the ILS. And that may be just where things started going wrong. But what else was in play? On Sunday afternoon at about 2 p.m., there was change in the direction of wind, known as wind shear, and this has a tricky way of making an airplane lose altitude. And when the tower cleared flight 169 for landing, the current was reported as wind 300 at 15 knots, gusting 31. Now, for a standard windsock, each section represents 3 knots, and 15 knots means the wind was at its max. Now, for such inconsistency, even the slightest wind shear at such a low altitude could be very dangerous.
During strong winds out of the west, they like to use runway 29. The trade-off is that runway 29 is short, and they need to get on the ground as soon as they can, and that's why they pass over the New Jersey Turnpike so low.
Now, let us take a look at the actual accident. While Flight 169 continued descending towards Newark Airport, the aircraft lined up with runway 29, but unfortunately passed lower than the airport perimeter, slightly banking to the left. Driving near the approach pad at that exact point in time was Warren Budley. He was on his regular routine as always, moving baked product on the Baker's Express. The dashcam shows Buddy looking out of the window while the engine noise grew louder. His windshield shattered instantly as the flight landing gear struck the truck. Frame by frame here we see what looks like the front landing gear just a fraction of a second before impact. Although the contact looks insignificant, but this is still a Boeing 767 crossing the runway threshold at 160 miles per hour. At that speed, even the slightest contact could be catastrophic. The aircraft also struck a light pole, ripping it off the ground, yet somehow the flight crew was still unaware of the incident. All passengers deplaned normally, other planes took the same runway as always, until about 30 minutes when the airport operation personnel spotted the damage and made the call.
Arlen, did you get a report for what the issue was?
I got different conflictions on the turnpike.
Yeah, they felt something over the threshold, and there's a hole in the side of the airplane. So I'm going to get you on the runway here in a moment. They said it was right at the threshold, so it'll just be a minute.
Roger.
And that was when they'd found out.
The truck driver, Warren Bordley, was taken to the hospital with cuts to his arm from broken glass. He was treated and released the same day, and I'm glad that he's okay and everyone's okay.
Although recently his father and an attorney held a press conference as a medium to communicate to the public. During this press conference, he was asked what his son had described the experience as, and he said,
"Fear, total fear, that he wouldn't walk away from it. He thought that he would be decapitated."
Nobody ever would expect an airplane to drop out of the sky and hit a
truck.
Now, prior to the accident, the 23-years-old Boeing 767-424ER was in perfect health condition. Maintenance services had shown no outstanding issues. Indeed mysterious, as this leads us to the question, why did it happen? 24 hours later, the National Transportation Safety Board would later classify the event as an accident, not an incident. Under federal aviation law, an accident is defined as an extent of injury to person and damage to aircraft. Both thresholds were met. United Airlines had been ordered to preserve both the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder. The flight crew has been engaged in a series of interviews as part of the ongoing investigation. The United Airlines also temporarily removed the pilot from active duty pending results, which is fairly standard after serious aviation events like this. What makes this accident linger in our mind isn't just the collision itself, it's the uncomfortable realization of how close it may have come to becoming far worse.
This accident could have been so bad. Newark International Airport is boxed into an incredibly packed area.
What if the landing gear had failed? What if the impact had damaged the critical flight controls? After over 8 hours of flight time, everything could have ended differently. For now, investigators from the FAA and NTSB are working to understand exactly what went wrong during the final moments before landing. Every needed information for investigation lies in the flight recorder and the CVR. Hopefully, what learned helps prevent something far worse in the future. Alright, that's it for today. And if you enjoy detailed aviation content like this, do check out other videos on the channel. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one.